Right, let's start IFRS 9 financial instruments. Right, I have prepared this presentation using that BDO International presentations also, and the IFRS practice issued by BDO International and the SLFRS 9. Right, the financial instrument, especially classification of financial instrument, measurement, and the impairment has been changed with the introduction of IFRS 9. Right. Previously we had it in IAS 39, now we have IFRS 9. Therefore, I am going to focus the special areas changes with the IFRS 9. Before move directly to those areas, I will take a short explanation about financial instruments and the other related areas of the financial instruments. Right. Now, in this balance sheet, this is a traditional T-shaped balance sheet. You can see there are some items, line items in black color with a specific standard, but some other items in red color not identified with a specific standard. Those are the financial instrument. Clear? Therefore, financial instrument you can see will be presented in both sides of the balance sheet as asset or a liability, or sometimes some financial instrument presented under equity also. Therefore, basically financial instrument we will divide into three categories. The items come under asset line called financial assets, items come under non-current liability and current liability. Here non-current liability and current liability called financial liabilities. Financial instruments under the equity called equity instruments. Therefore, financial instruments in the liability side have two categories, financial liabilities and equity instrument, but in the asset side you have only financial assets. Then this is the basic structure and the definition of a financial instrument. This is very important. Financial instrument, the number 1 point is a contract. If you have this standard book, please take IAS 32. IAS 32 gives you the definitions of financial instrument, assets and liabilities and everything, and the classification in between equity instrument and liabilities. Right, IAS 32 clearly define what is financial instrument. Financial instrument is a contract. Clear? It is a contract between two parties. One party will recognize a financial asset, other party will recognize equity instrument or liability instrument. The reason is, let's take this short term investments. Now, it is a financial asset to this entity. There may be another entity who issued these instruments. This short term investment may be investment in ordinary shares in short term purpose, or investment in preference share or debenture in short term purpose. Therefore, this is the investor who lent money. There is another party who borrowed money issuing share capital or debenture. Therefore, this instrument, this short term investment instrument, right, this instrument is a financial asset for this party, other party will recognize under their equity or financial liability. Therefore, financial instrument is a contract between two parties. One party will recognize the asset, other party will recognize their equity instrument or financial liability. If you take this side, let us take this stated capital. Stated capital, this entity recognized as equity instrument, other party it is an investment for the financial asset. Clear? Then we can move this here, the words we are using. Now, investor we call lender, person who gives money. Then taker means person who purchase the instrument. Purchasing an instrument means financial asset, right? Or the investor, right, he has the financial asset. In other side, person who holding financial liability or equity instrument called borrower, issuer or investee. These are the words you have to understand when you understand in the questions, right? Then quickly see what are the financial assets. The important point of a financial asset, assets will generate future economic benefit in different ways, but financial asset generate only cash or another financial asset. If you take motor vehicle will generate cash once you sell it. Motor vehicle reduce your operating cost once you use it. Therefore, it not only generate cash, it will reduce your operating cost. But financial asset, they will generate the future economic benefit only on cash or another financial asset. Is it clear? That's the nature of a financial asset. Now, if I take the original balance sheet, here the prepaid expenses not mentioned with an standard but not colored in red, because prepaid expenses is not an financial asset or financial instrument. Why? Prepaid expenses say electricity, prepaid electricity is a receivable, but electricity board won't be transfer cash to you, they will transfer electricity to you. Therefore, their future benefit will arise not only in cash or cash equivalent, it will be arise in other means. Prepaid salary, people will work, not give cash to you. Therefore, to become a financial instrument, it shall generate cash or another financial asset only. Otherwise, it is not a financial asset. Then let us take the financial liability also, the same story. Financial liability, right, will generate outflows from the business. How it generate the outflow, right? To deliver cash or another financial asset to settle the liability. Is that clear? It's a financial liability. Then equity instrument is the difference between total assets and total liabilities, right? All these explanations you have in IAS 32 under the definitions, right? Then directly let us move into the financial asset and their classification. Clear? This is the most important part, has been introduced by IFRS 9, the classification of financial assets. The classification of financial asset clearly explained in the standard under chapter 4. Here chapter 4. Classification of financial asset of the IFRS 9, right. I will explain the classification. This is a huge story. You need to clearly understand how to classify financial asset. I will use the whiteboard to explain how to classify financial assets, right. Now, simply you know, financial instrument is a contract. When one party has financial asset, other party has equity instrument or debt instrument, simply. Therefore, when you classify financial asset, classification of financial asset, you have the financial asset, right. When this person has the financial asset, other party will recognize equity instrument or liability instrument, debt instrument. Liability instrument means the debt instrument. Therefore, when you have a financial asset, you need to see whether which source they have invested. Which source? You have to see whether is a debt instrument. See that whether it is a debt instrument or not. Is that clear? Debt instrument means a financial liability for the other party. Where you have invested, you have a financial asset, right? Where you have invested, other party, it is a debt instrument. Answer will be yes or answer will be no. Right? When you have a financial asset, first you have to see where they have invested, whether it is a financial, debt instrument or not. If it is not debt instrument, actually it is a equity instrument, right? If it is not debt, it is a equity. If it is a equity, it will be measured at fair value through P&L, fair value through OCI only. For trading purposes, fair value through P&L, non-trading fair value through OCI. Therefore, simply you can see, when an entity has a financial asset, if it is invested on another company's equity, it will be measured only at fair value. Only at fair value, no cost option now. It will be measured only at fair value. If it is for trading purpose, fair value change taken into profit and loss. If it is for long term keeping purpose, long term or medium term keeping purpose, it is fair value through OCI. Clear? That is investment on ordinary shares of another company. Why? Financial asset on where? Debt instrument? No, that is equity. Then classified as fair value through P&L or fair value through OCI. No cost option. If it is not, yes, if it is a debt investment, investment on debt. Clear? If it is investment on debt, the story is little bit complicated. If it is investment on debt, then you have to see the cash flow type. Sorry. Cash flow type. What is the cash flow type they are expecting? What cash flows entity expects? Because asset is a resource which generate future cash flows, future benefits. Which cash flows entity expect? Clear? Now, which type of investment we are talking about? Investment of another entity's ordinary shares or debt instrument? Debt instruments. Is it clear? Which cash flows you are expecting? Your cash flows expectations can be divided into two categories. Right? Your cash flow expectation can be divided into two categories. One, you will expect the principal amount invested and interest which cover time, value and credit risk. Clear? As the cash flow, you will expect only principal and interest which cover time value for money and the credit risk. For an example, you will invest on FD, fixed deposits of a bank. What do you expect? Interest and the principal amount. Definitely you will expect the interest which cover the time value of money because you keep for a period of time. Clear? When you expect a reasonable interest to recover your credit risk and time value and the principal you invested, only you expect principal and interest. It's called, it's satisfying SPPI, solely payment of principal and interest. තනිකරම principal එක සහ interest එක සඳහා තියා ගැනීමක්. Solely payment of principal and interest. Right? You will keep it only for principal and interest. Next category, other category. Other category means you are keeping it for more than principal and interest or less than principal or interest. Your expectation not only for principal and interest, you will expect more than that, other. Clear? Some finance companies expecting profit percentage also from the loan given. I will give you a loan to construct 100 stories condominium property building. I will ask you to pay the capital. I will ask you to pay the interest. In addition to that, I will ask you to 1% profit share. What I am expecting? Principal, interest, profit share. More than principal and interest. Clear? Those are outside SPPI, not for solely payment of principal and interest. Those are other. If it is other, it will be measured no option fair value through P&L, like this. These two like this. If you are not expecting only principal and interest, that instrument no option will be measured at fair value through P&L. But if you expect not only only principal and interest, you cannot say you will measure this method. You have another technique to check, another model to check. You need to see what is the business model. What is the business model? Clear? What is the business model? Now you need to check business model if instrument on debt satisfy SPPI. Is that clear? Otherwise no need to check. If it satisfy SPPI, then you will check the business model. Business model will divide into 3 categories. Got it? Business model will be divided into 3 categories. Business model means how long entity keep the asset. Got it? Cash flow means what cash flows you are expecting. I told you principal and interest only or more than that. According to that we have divided it into 2, SPPI and other. Then that SPPI instrument check for business model. How long entity keep the instrument. Is that clear? How long entity will keep the instrument. How long means are they going to trade within 1 year or keep more than 1 year or keep up to the maturity. Right? Therefore, one business model may be keep up to maturity. Is that clear? Keep up to maturity means hold to collect. Keep up to maturity we call hold to collect. You will keep up to the maturity. Some instrument will keep, but when opportunity arise, you will sell. Your intention is not to sell, right? Now here your intention is to keep, no doubt. But some instrument are there, you will keep, but when opportunity arise, you will sell. Those called hold to collect and sell. Is that clear? So, some instrument will keep up to maturity, it's called hold to collect. But some instrument will keep, but when opportunity arise, it will sell. Clear? Those called hold to collect and sell. Then other category will be for sell. For sell category we call other. Other means only for selling purpose. Therefore, business model we have 3 categories. Instrument will keep for maturity until it matured as FD. FD is an instrument will keep up to maturity, right? But some instrument you will keep, but when opportunity arises you will sell. Hold to collect and sell, and other one is sell. Sell category called other. If your model is hold to collect, you will measure this at amortized cost method, AC, amortized cost method. Clear? If it is hold to collect, you will measure it at amortized cost method. If it is hold to collect and sell, both keep, thereafter you will sell fair value through OCI. If it is other, fair value through P&L. This is the classification of financial assets. Is that clear? I will explain it again. When you have a financial asset, focus on the whiteboard. When you have a financial asset, you have to see where you have invested. see whether you have invested on debt instrument of the other entity. If it is no, definitely it is an equity instrument. Therefore, it will be measured at fair value, long term OCI, short term P&L. Got it? When you invested on debt, first of all you have to see which cash flows you are expecting. You may expect principal and interest. Interest means not just interest rate, interest which cover your credit risk and time value for money. If you only expect principal and interest, it's called it satisfying SPPI, right? If it's satisfying SPPI, thereafter you see what is the business model you want, how long you will keep. If you will keep up to maturity, it's called hold to collect. Those instruments will be measured at amortized cost. If your intention is to keep and sell, hold to collect and sell, it will be measured at fair value through OCI. If your intention is to sell other category, it will be measured at fair value through P&L. Further, if the cash flow type not only SPPI, those instruments also measured at fair value through P&L. Clear? This is the important technical area you need to keep your mind. Now everything has been explained in the standard. Now please take paragraph 4, right? Now take paragraph 412. 412. Since you are here, you can see in both the whiteboard and the screen. When you are watching the video, please go back and take a snapshot of the whiteboard classification, then see this part, right? Okay. 412. A financial asset shall be measured at amortized cost. See on the whiteboard, you have only amortized cost classification only one place. That place was SPPI and hold to collect. Agree? See, a financial asset shall be measured at amortized cost if both of the following conditions are met. Number 1, the financial asset is held within a business model whose objective is to hold financial asset in order to collect contractual cash flows. Hold to collect. The contractual terms of the financial asset give rise to a specified date to cash flows that are solely payment of principal and interest. SPPI satis, if hold to collect satis, it will be measured at amortized cost. Agreed? Therefore, 412 is the classification of amortized cost financial asset. Clear? If you want, you can make a summary, right? Then 412A. 412A, a financial asset shall be measured at fair value through other comprehensive income if, see the debt instruments. Debt instrument will be measured at fair value through OCI when SPPI satisfied and hold to collect and sell satisfied. Here, achieve both collecting contractual cash flows and selling the financial asset. Hold to collect and sell and solely payment of principal and interest. Got it? Therefore, what you need to do here, note down the 412 debt, investment on debt at amortized cost. Clear? In front of 412, investment on debt, investment on debt at amortized cost. 412A, 412A, investment on debt at fair value through OCI. Is that clear? 412A, investment on debt at fair value through OCI. SPPI satisfied, hold to collect and sell satisfied. Clear? This 413 actually explain what is principal and what is interest as I explained to you. Got it? Just read. 413 explain what is principal and interest. Then take 414. Right? A financial asset shall be measured at fair value through profit or loss unless it measured under 412 and 412A. See debt instrument, right? So, now I can tell you SPPI satisfied. This SPPI explain in paragraph 413 what is SPPI, right? Once SPPI satisfied, if satisfied hold to collect, it will be measured at amortized cost 412A. Clear? That's, you need to take this picture into the first page, then you can fix the numbers. If SPPI satisfied and business model satisfied as hold to collect and sell, 412A. Is that clear? If SPPI satisfied but business model is other or not satisfied SPPI, you will measure it at fair value through P&L 414. First sentence 412, 414, first sentence. Here also fair value through P&L 414, first sentence. Is that clear? Now let us see the first sentence of 414, right? Financial asset shall be measured at fair value through profit or loss, right? If it is not measured at 412 or 412A, is that clear? If it is not measured at 412 means, what is 412? Amortized cost. 412A, fair value through OCI. If it is not measured at amortized cost or fair value through OCI, it will be measured at fair value through profit and loss. Is that clear? Right. Then take paragraph 575. Investment on equity. Investment on equity, you know what I am going to discuss now. Up to this extent we have discussed investment on debt. Investment on equity will be measured at fair value through P&L or fair value through OCI. Read this. At initial recognition, an entity make an irrevocable election to present in other comprehensive income subsequent changes in fair value of an investment in an equity instrument within the scope of this standard is neither held for trading or contingent consideration recognized by the acquirer in a business combination. If it is not for neither held for trading or contingent consideration, identify the business combination which SLFRS 3, right? Is that clear? Therefore, if you keep for trading purposes, it is fair value through P&L, right? If it is not for trading, neither held for trading means not for trading. If it is not for trading, fair value through OCI. If it is for trading, fair value through P&L. Therefore, write down here with the equity, right, for both of these 5 paragraph 575. If it is for trading, fair value through P&L, Suraj. For both investment on equity, paragraph 575. If it is trading, fair value through P&L. If it is non-trading, neither help for trading, fair value through OCI. Is that clear? Right. This is the classification of financial assets. What you need to do now, take this picture into the first page of the standard, fix the picture with the numbers, then anytime you can find out where the definition exit. Clear? This is the classification of financial asset. Now, the next part in this case, how to apply this. Especially you need to know how to apply this cash flow type test and how to apply these business models. I will give few examples. Clear? Cash flow type. Assume an entity invested on debt instrument is given a loan or sell goods or services on credit. Your financial asset called trade receivable. It's an investment on debt. Trade receivable is an investment on debt. Trade receivable, what you expect? Generally you will expect the principal, if they take time, the interest. Therefore, from trade receivables you will expect solely payment of principal and interest, and you expect to keep until debtor is paid. Clear? Therefore, it satisfy, debtors satisfy SPPI and hold to collect. Therefore, debtors will be measured at amortized cost. Is that clear? Another example. Company given a loan, right, to another company at an interest rate cap on LIBOR or SLIBOR, right. That means that interest cover in time value for money, because they are using market interest rate, then it is satisfying SPPI. I will take an example not satisfying SPPI. I will give you a loan, right. I will charge interest on the gold price or the gem price or any other commodity price. My interest will decide the commodity price. That means interest not cover time value for money, interest not cover credit risk, interest cover only price changes of a commodity. Therefore, when you given a loan and charging interest on commodity price such as gold loan, pawning loan, right, not satisfying SPPI. Even though they charge interest, that interest not cover the time value for money, interest cover any other thing, that is a commodity price. Therefore, when a loan granted with interest on commodity price not satisfying SPPI means it come under the other category. Is that clear? Therefore, it fair value through P&L. Another example. I will acquire a business from you. From you I will acquire business. I will pay today purchase consideration in cash, and I agree to pay balance after 1 year. No conditions. I will pay after 1 year. That consideration called deferred consideration. Got it? In my books of account, it's a liability for me, but for your books of account, it is an asset, receivable balance. Deferred consideration definitely I will pay with the principal and interest. That's why deferred consideration discounted and account in the cost of control account to calculate the goodwill. Therefore, from the deferred consideration, you have an asset as the seller of shares. You will receive principal and interest. Therefore, it will be satisfied SPPI. If you keep up to the maturity, hold to collect until the required period complete, it will be measured at amortized cost. That's why you discounted and record, Thereafter you increase the interest year by year. Got it? Other consideration is contingent consideration. I will tell you, okay, I will pay further consideration after 1 year if you generated a profit. Got it? If you generated a profit, if there is the if condition, it's a contingent consideration. Contingent consideration, what you expect as the investor? That means who sell the shares? You are the person who sell the shares. You have a receivable contingent consideration. What you expect from it? What the cash flow you expect? Can you definitely say I will expect interest and principal? No, you don't know whether you received or not, because your interest and the principal will depend on the achievement of the condition. Therefore, it is not satisfying SPPI. Since it is not satisfying SPPI, the contingent consideration in the receivable side will be measured at fair value through P&L. Is that clear? IFRS 3 also mentioned contingent consideration shall be measured at fair value. Is that clear? That's the requirement. Another example. Not satisfying SPPI. The investor, right? I will issue convertible bonds. Agreed? Got it? I will issue convertible bonds. You are the investor, I am the issuer. Is that clear? I will recognize my equity component and liability component as you practice. Correct? You are the investor. You invested on what? Convertible bonds. What do you expect? What are the benefits you will be received? You will receive the principal in cash or in shares. Interest generally less than the market interest rate. You know that. In convertible bonds or loan notes, borrower generally pay lower interest rate since you have the right to become a shareholder. Therefore, you are not getting an interest which cover time value for money. Is that clear? It not covered your credit risk. Generally, convertible bonds gives you lower interest rate. Agreed? Then, as the investor, can they say we are satisfying SPPI? No. Is that clear? Because convertible bond pay lower interest rate, and also the principal will depend on the conversion option. Clear? Therefore, on the investor's perspective, it is come under other category, not satisfying SPPI. Convertible bond issuer is the who recognize liability. Purchaser will recognize financial asset at fair value through P&L. Got it? Because it not satisfying SPPI. That's how you have to practice this. Clear? Then how to apply SPPI? Let's take the presentation again. As I told you, the financial instrument assets will divide into two categories: investment on debt and investment on equity. Agreed? Investment on debt I have mentioned as investment in other sources, right? Then investment on other sources, that is investment on debt, right? Investment in other sources means investment on debt. You can see there is a matrix here, cash flow type, here business model. Now you have the classification I have made on the whiteboard. Compare with that. Business model is hold to collect. SPPI satisfied, solely payment of principal and interest. Hold to collect measured at amortized cost. Got it? If SPPI not satisfied, it is other. Any item come under other will be measured at fair value through P&L. Agreed? If SPPI satisfied but hold to collect and sell, both fair value through OCI. Even though it's satisfying SPPI, business model is other, fair value through PNL. Clear? You must be able to compare this and the chart I have given on the whiteboard. See, take 2 minutes and see, is it tallying? Is that clear? Can you match it? Can you understand? When you compare this chart and that chart, okay? Now you can see whether you can understand. If I want to write a paragraph in this box, what is the paragraph? 412. Am I correct? Here 412A. All these 4 boxes 414, first paragraph. Is that clear? Right. Then let's move into the investment on equity. Only 2, fair value through PNL and fair value through OCI. If it is for not held for trading, fair value through OCI. The notice the exemptions to measure investment in unquoted equity instrument at cost has been eliminated. Any investment on equity, purchase of ordinary shares, if it is a financial asset, it should be measured at fair value only. Right? Now I will tell you another additional story. Right? Another additional story. That is very important with this. Clear? Okay. Investment on equity, you can say, you cannot say always it is a financial asset. Investment on equity, right? That is purchase of ordinary shares of an entity. Agreed? That is investment on equity. Clear? I have told you it should be fair value through PNL or fair value through OCI, but not always. Why not always? See this. Category 1. When you buy ordinary shares, right, of a company, of another company, see whether that company is a business. You are the investor on an other entity, other entity called investee. Is that clear? You are the investor, person who issue shares called investee. Is that clear? I will buy shares, you will issue shares. I have an investment, you have an equity instrument. You are the investee, I am the investor. See whether investee is a business. Is that clear? See whether investee is a business, right? According to SLFRS 3. See whether it is a business. Business means a set of integrated activities according to SLFRS 3. Right? I will explain with the consolidation again. Business has input, process, output. Is that clear? There is a huge explanation there. According to SLFRS, you have to see whether it is satisfying a business. Then, thereafter, see whether you investor has control. This is the other word. Number one, whether it's a business. Number two, investor has control over investee. Is that clear? Control over investee. If so, this is a subsidiary. This is not financial asset. Got it? Therefore, always you can't say investment on ordinary shares is a financial asset. Clear? Investment on ordinary shares, investee is a business and you have the control over investee, it's a subsidiary. Number two, investee is a business as per SLFRS 3 and investor has not control, they has joint control over investee, has joint control according to SLFRS 11. Here according to SLFRS 10, control come according to SLFRS 10, joint control explained in SLFRS 11. Joint control means to take decisions on relevant activities, both parties has unanimous consent. If two parties or more than two parties need to agree to take decisions, it's called joint control. In such a situation, it's called joint venture. Joint operation is not an entity, therefore, generally is a joint arrangement. Since other party issues shares, it is a joint venture. Clear? The third category. Investee is a business according to SLFRS 3. Is that clear? Investor haven't control or joint control. Haven't control or joint control, but have investors, right? Or investor have but significant influence according to LKS 28, has SI, significant influence. You can't control them. You can't control, even join with another party, you can't control them. But you have a significant influence according to LKS 28. That means you can appoint a director to the board. You can participate for decision making. You can make only significant influence. That entity say, what is it? Associate. All these three companies considering for business consolidation. Is that clear? Therefore, investment on equity not always financial asset. Financial asset will be only the residual, that is other. Other means no control, no joint control, or no significant influence, right? Residual, that is no control, no joint control, no significant influence. If all these no, you have just financial asset. Is that clear? You have a just financial asset. It will be divided into two: fair value through OCI and fair value through P&L. Is that clear? Fair value through OCI. If it is non-trading, fair value through OCI. Trading, fair value through P&L. Clear? Only this category explained under SLFRS 9. Got it? Therefore, don't say investment on equity is always financial asset. It will become a financial asset if you don't have control, joint control, or significant influence. Clear? This is very important when you making decisions on consolidation. To consolidate the other company's balance sheet, it should be a subsidiary. If it is a subsidiary, you should have control over investee individually, and the investee should be a business, right? As so, if it is a joint venture, right, to require accounting treatment based on whether you have joint control over them and when it is a business. Clear? If you have only significant influence, it is an associate. Clear? No control, no joint control, or no SI, significant influence. That means it's come under financial asset. Therefore, to apply IFRS 9 on the investment on shares, before apply IFRS 9, see whether it's satisfying all these three. If no, apply 9. Is that clear? Therefore, any investment on share is not a financial asset according to IFRS 9. Clear? Now, here we are talking about only investment on shares doesn't have control or joint control or significant influence. Is that clear? This is part of consolidation, right? This is very important when you are studying consolidation, right? Okay. Suraj. Therefore, here we talk about only investment in ordinary shares without control, without joint control and significant influence. Therefore, finally, all the financial assets can be classified like this: investment on equity with the blue arrow, fair value through OCI on equity or fair value through P&L. Investment on other sources, that is on debt, red line, right? Amortized cost, fair value through OCI on debt and fair value through P&L. Clear? Therefore, basically financial asset will classified only three categories: amortized cost, fair value through OCI and fair value through P&L. Amortized cost only debt instruments, fair value through OCI both debt and equity, fair value through P&L both debt and equity. Is that clear? Right. Then we have discussed how to classify in between SPPI. Now I will show you a paragraph now there. SPPI contractual cash flows. in your standard book, paragraph B4 113, in your standard book IFRS 9, paragraph B4 113, you have examples. There is a table, see, paragraph B4 113, there is a table. That table shows examples on SPPI application. As I told you, is that clear? I have explained how to apply SPPI. You have examples on B4 114, just checked that paragraph. B4 114, next paragraph, says examples about not satisfying SPPI. Is that clear? If you want examples for SPPI, it is in paragraph B4 113. If you want examples for not for SPPI, not for SPPI means definitely fair value through P&L. Is that clear? B4 114. Right? These are the examples as I have explained. Then you need to understand what is hold to collect and what is hold to collect and sell. Clear? I will give nice example, listen to me. Say today January 1st. Clearly listen to me. Say today January 1st. You have 100 million cash on your pocket. Your board decided to buy a subsidiary. You are the finance controller. Board instructed you, you must buy a subsidiary before 1st July. What is the today? 1st January. You have 100 million cash surplus. Board instructed you to do what? Buy a subsidiary. What is the deadline? 1st July. How many months you have to do this? 6 months. Today January 1st. Therefore, you know your deadline is after 6 months. Therefore, until you find an opportunity, you can invest this excess cash in a short term investment. Am I correct? To have short term income, additional income, that is working capital management, additional cash you can invest for 6 month period. You will find a government bill or corporate bill which will be matured on or before 30th June. Got it? You will find a government bill or corporate bill, or you will find a fixed deposit which will be matured within 6 months or before that. Is that clear? Because your deadline will be on the next day, 1st July. When you have invested an instrument which will be matured within 6 months, your intention is to hold to collect or hold to collect and sell. Tell me. Can you keep it up to a maturity? Yes, because your deadline is 1st July. Is that clear? Therefore, you can keep it up to maturity. In such a situation, investment will be classified as hold to collect. But if you invested the same 100 million on government bills which will be matured in 9 months, got it? Which will be matured on 30th September. Can you keep it up to maturity? No. What you have to do? You will keep for 6 months. Thereafter, you will redeem, get back the cash and invest. Therefore, can you keep up to maturity? No, but you can keep up to some extent. Therefore, that model is hold to collect and sell. Got it? That's how you have to judge it. You have many examples in this standard book. See paragraph B414C. This is the paragraph you need to refer. Look my cursor, right? Here, this is my cursor, I think you can see now, right? here the paragraph number B4 4C gives example about the hold to collect and sell. Hold to collect and sell. Just read those examples, then you can develop your knowledge further. Is that clear? Hold to collect and sell. If you want examples for hold to collect, you know this is the paragraph. B4 gives you hold to collect examples. Clear? Therefore, for SPPI, for non-SPPI, hold to collect and sell, for both 4 categories you have example in the standard book itself. Read those examples. I told you 5 examples here. I will give you another example. Company has an investment portfolio. What is the company has? Investment portfolio. This investment portfolio managed by a separate team. Their duty is to match the investment according to their fund needs. What's their duty? What company having? Investment portfolio. It's managed by a separate team. What's their duty? Match the investments according to the fund's requirement. That means entity never invest more than the period which they require funds. Therefore, those investments satisfy hold to collect, because they match the maturity for the funds requirement. If they need fund 1st July, they definitely invest within 6 months or less. Matching the investment for funds requirement, hold to collect. Clear? When they are not matching for funds requirement, they will invest as they wish. But if they won't, they realize. Not matching investment with the fund requirement. Is that clear? Then it is hold to collect and sell. Assume you want to sit for CFR subject, the equivalent subject in the new syllabus. It's called Advanced Financial Reporting in Strategic Level next June. Assume. Assume කරන්නත් බයද මේ පාර ලියන්නේ නේද? Just assume you want to sit for Advanced Financial Reporting under Strategic Level under the new syllabus in June 2020. Agreed? Right. When you invest your cash surplus today, you know you have to divest those cash before June to apply for the exam. Without considering, you will invest until end of the 20. That is up to the end of 2020, up to the December. Clear? However, you have to divest the investment in June or before that to pay for the exam fees. Therefore, your investment is hold to collect and sell. But if you invest in a source which matured in April or May, it is hold to collect. Is that clear? That depends on your intentions. Therefore, try to read these examples. Got it? Then let us move into the classification of financial liabilities. Right? First I explain this, then we can go for the standard and the summaries. Got it? Classification of financial liabilities. Today I try to cover all the theoretical aspect, then we can take example easily. Right? Financial liability classification not largely changed with IAS 39. Clear? What was the method applied in IAS 39? We will practice up to many extent, right, in IFRS 9. The classification and measurement of financial liabilities in accordance with IFRS 9 remain largely unchanged as IAS 39, because financial liabilities in each will measure at amortized cost or fair value through P&L only. Is that clear? You only measure financial liabilities at amortized cost or fair value through P&L. Then no fair value through OCI option. Is that clear? Right. Financial liabilities are measured at amortized cost unless either, got it? Unless either means these 2 points will be measured at fair value through P&L. Is that clear? Unless either. එහෙම වෙන්නේ නැත්නම් you will measure at amortized cost. ඒකනේ කියන්නේ. මෙහෙම වෙන්නේ නැත්නම් amortized cost එකට මනිනවා. දැන් මෙහෙම වෙනවා නම් fair value through P&L. Financial liabilities will be measured at amortized cost unless either. If these 2 point or 1 point satisfied, it will be fair value through P&L. Is that clear? Very simple. The financial liability held for trading, no option, fair value through P&L, held for trading. Or the entity elects to measure the financial liability at fair value, then you have to apply fair value. Otherwise, all instrument will be measured at amortized cost. Got it? Right. Now let's take the standard book. Paragraph 4(1). Paragraph 4(1), as we discussed previously, was the classification of financial assets. Remember, paragraph 4(1), this is classification of financial asset, we highlighted. Agreed? Now we will move into classification of financial liabilities, paragraph 4(2). Right? Very simple. As I explained in my presentation, an entity shall classify all financial liabilities at amortized cost unless either or except, both same, except when financial liability keeping for trading purpose or when the entity decided to apply fair value model. Here those examples given here. If this A, B, C, D is satisfied, it is a fair value through P&L financial asset. Otherwise, it is a amortized cost financial asset. Got it? Now, we need to take the other theoretical aspects of the financial instrument. Right? Therefore, my next part of this presentation is initial measurement of financial asset. Now, I already told you how to classify assets and liabilities. Is that clear? Okay. Right. Now, we will move into the beginning. Initial measurement. I am not going to talk only financial asset. I will talk about the financial instruments. Both. Right? How many categories you have in financial assets? 3. What are the 3? Amortized cost, fair value through OCI or fair value through P&L. How many categories you have for financial liabilities? 2. Amortized cost or fair value through P&L. Got it? Whatever the financial instrument, very simple. Any financial instrument other than debtors, I will tell you why. Any financial instrument other than debtors, keep in your mind. Other than debtors, any financial instrument, any financial asset or any financial liability other than trade debtors, initially measured at fair value. That is the theory. Initially measured at fair value. Is that clear? Why debtors cannot measure at fair value? Debtors journal entry created by not through the debtors. It will be created under another accounting standard. What is it? SLFRS 15, revenue. The revenue recognition is the computer of debtor value. Therefore, debtor will recognize initially according to SLFRS 15 sales proceed receivable, but all other financial instruments initially measured at fair value. Is that clear? Right. Now our question, when you initially measure a financial instrument at fair value, you will have a huge problem, practical problem. If I going to take the technical words, you will be complicated. I will tell you an example. You want to buy shares of a company. For an example, say you want to buy Dialog shares. Simple example, Dialog company shares. You have two options. What are the two options you have? You can directly walk to the share market, right? Through a share broker, through CDS system, you can buy shares. Agreed? Or you can personally buy from another investor. Assume I have shares, I will ask you, okay, no need to go for a CDS system, or no to go for a broker, no need to take it from the share market. I have few shares, please buy my shares. Therefore, you have two options. You can buy from the share market, or you can personally buy from another investor. Agreed? If you are going to buy from the share market, definitely you have to pay the fair value of the asset. Is that clear? If the market price 10 rupees, definitely you will pay 10 rupees. Is that clear? But the standard says it should be measured at fair value. Now your cash outflow and the fair value same. Is that clear? Therefore, investment debit 10, cash credit 10, no issue. Is that clear? But you when personally buying shares, right? I will offer 8 rupees per share. I will offer 8 rupees per share. Got it? Assume you have bought one share from me at 8 rupees. Standard request you to record it at fair value. Therefore, investment account debit, how much? 10. You must measure it at fair value. Investment account debit, 10. Cash book credit, 8. That's the complicated. That's the issue. Now what happened to the 2? These 2 raised this again. Oh, it can be a loss. I will offer 12 rupees. Then cash credit 12, but you debit only 10. Always you debit only 10 to the asset. Fair value. Cash credit 12 or 8, not the fair value. When you personally buy shares. Therefore, at the very first day, you will have a gain or loss. Agreed? That's called day 1, gain or loss. Have you heard this word? It's not a huge magical word, right? People say, just take a chat with a financial institution person. නිකන් ඔය බැංකුවක වැඩ කරන කෙනෙක් කතා කරලා බලන්නකෝ. මාර වචනනේ කියන්නේ. නේද? අර විශ්වවිද්‍යාල ළමයි කතා කරනවා වගේ රැස්වීම වල. තේරෙන්නේ නැහැ නේ අනිත් අයට. ඔය IFRS 13 ආපු දවස් 9 ආපු දවස්වල මමත් ඇහුවා. දැන් ඉනිෂියල් රෙකග්නිෂන් වෙනස් වෙලානු නේද IFRS 9 අනුව? ඔව් මචං මාරයි day 1 gain no loss එකක් ගන්න තියෙනවා. expected loss එක ගන්න ඕනේ. මට නිකන් විකාරයි වගේ. ඕක තමයි අපිට ප්‍රශ්නේ පුතේ. අපි හැම තියරිටිකල් පොයින්ට් එකම ගන්න යන්නේ තියරියක් විදියට. නිකන් හිතන්නකෝ. ඩෙබිට් එක දාන්න ඕන ඇසෙට් එකේ නැත්නම් ක්‍රෙඩිට් එක දාන්න ඕන ලයිබිලිටි එකේ ෆෙයා වැලියු එකට නම් if it is an asset you have a cash outflow, if it is a liability you have a cash inflow at the initial recognition. That value may be different from the amount you recognize. Therefore, actual amount paid to acquire the asset or actual amount received to assume the liability may be different from the fair value measurement, right? Then you have a difference in the journal entry. Journal entry tally වෙන්නේ නැහැ. ඒතර වෙනසක් එනවා. ඔය වෙනසට මොකක්ද කියන්නේ? day 1 gain no loss. clear? දැන් ඔයාලට කියනවා මේ very simple example ඉස්සලා සිංහලෙන් කියලා ඉන්නකො. wife දෙනවා රුපියල් 100ක්. හරිද? ගේන්න කියලා සීනි. කඩේට කියලා සීනි ගේන්න කියලා. wife හරි husband හරි දුන්නා කියලා හිතන්නකෝ. සුරාජ්ට දුන්නා කියලා හිතන්නකෝ. සුරාජ්ට wife දෙනවා රුපියල් 100ක් කඩේ කියලා සීනි ගේන්න කියලා. කඩේ සීනි 110යි. හරි? සුරාජ් අතනුත් 10ක් දීලා තමයි සීනි කිලෝව ගෙදර ගෙනියන්නේ. හරි? දැන් fair value එක 110යිනේ සීනි වල. සුරාජ්ට loss එකක් තියෙනවානේ. ගත්ත වෙලාවෙම ඇති වුණා day 1 loss is 10. නේද? ඒක තමයි day 1 gain no loss. Your spouse will give you 100 rupees to buy 1 kilogram of sugar. That value at the market will be 110. Therefore, you have to add additional 10 rupees to buy it. Now you have a loss of 10. Is it clear? That is day 1 gain no loss. The difference between the fair value and the cash flow. Clear? It's a gain no loss shall be recognized in profit and loss immediately or over the period based on the circumstances. I will explain how. Financial instrument initially will be measured at fair value. Agreed? Agreed. Clear? Fair value shall be measured according to kata kara. I take again from the beginning. Financial instrument will be measured at fair value initially. Fair value shall be measured according to what do you think? කොහොමද? fair value එක විදියට නේ. fair value shall be measured according to the fair value විදියට. එහෙමද? fair value shall be measured according to SLFRS 13. SLFRS 13 told you to take level 1, level 2 or level 3 inputs to measure it. Level 1 active quote at market price. Level 2 a price of a similar asset. Level 3 is the discounted price values of the cash flows. If you measure fair value according to level 1 using observable data, day 1 gain or loss directly taken into the P&L at that time. Is that clear? If you measure fair value using unobservable data such as level 2 or level 3, day 1 gain no loss will be differ over the life of the instrument. Throughout the period, part by part you will take into profit and loss. Generally day 1 gain no loss goes to profit and loss. Is that clear? Total will take at the same time if fair value measured according to level 1. If fair value not measured according to level 1 using unobservable data, you will take over the period. Is that clear? That's the point. Okay, that's the one part of the initial recognition, that is accounting for day 1 gain no loss, right? Other part is transaction cost. You have stamp duties, you have legal fees, broker fees, everything. Transaction cost. What about the transaction cost? This is the accounting for transaction cost. All financial assets and financial liabilities, that is financial instrument, divided into two categories: amortized cost and fair value through OCI in one basket, fair value through P&L in other basket. දැන් financial instrument ඇත්තටම category 3යිනේ. asset category 3යි, liability category 2යි. Financial asset has 3 categories and liabilities has 2 categories. But all together 3 categories ne, because that liability 2 categories within the 3 categories same ne. All together you have 3 categories, right? Amortized cost, fair value through OCI and fair value through P&L. හරි? දැන් මේ තුන එකට තිබ්බම මෙතන වැදගත්ම කෙනා කවුද? ඔක්කොම වැදගත්. අර മന്ത്രി හොඳයි ඇමති හොඳයි වගේ. හොඳයි මේක මොකද්ද? fair value through P&L. What is the best important? fair value through P&L because highly realizable. That's why you take fair value through P&L because realizable items you will take into the P&L. Got it? Therefore, you will put them into two rooms, two buckets for transaction cost. Fair value through P&L instruments, amortized cost and fair value through OCI instrument. Can you see that two buckets? If the instrument in the fair value through P&L bucket highly realizable, gain immediately going to the P&L, therefore transaction cost also taken into profit and loss. Clear? But other bucket, which bucket? The amortized cost and fair value through OCI bucket, both are in same bucket, right? Not highly realizable. If you want to realize immediately, you will have a capital loss. Got it? Not highly realizable. Amortized cost and fair value through OCI. Both put them into one bucket and their transaction cost will charge into their relevant account. If it is a financial asset, with the transaction cost, asset will increase because asset also in the debit side, transaction cost also goes to the debit side, therefore asset value will increase. If it is a financial liability, liability is in the credit side, but transaction cost goes to debit side, therefore due to the transaction cost, liability will reduce. If it is amortized cost or fair value through OCI, transaction cost goes to the relevant account, but if it is a fair value through P&L, transaction cost charged to profit and loss. Is that clear? Those are very important points, right, in the initial recognition. Now I have explained the classification of financial assets, theoretical aspects, classification of financial liabilities, theoretical aspects, and the initial recognition of financial instrument. Don't ask what is the subsequent measurement. Subsequent measurement is same as the classification. Therefore, financial instrument classification equal to the subsequent measurement. I have explained you the initial measurement also. Let's take the standard book now. Initial measurement 5.1, right? Read and see whether this is correct. What I have explained is correct. See, except for trade receivable, right? පුතේ මට අද මගේ සීනියර් පාර්ට්නර් හොඳ කතාවක් කිව්වා. My senior partner is Mr. Nihal De Silva, right? He told me a nice story. He told me, Samira, person who follow what the Lord Buddha said as it is will face the enlightenment, will become Rahat. Person who followed the way Lord Buddha shows will become Arahat at the end. Persons who try to challenge what the Lord Buddha said will not become Arahat, but they will find some different thing rather than that. As Devadattara, he told, if Devadattara not followed that way, but went against that, he is a brilliant man. He will be a brilliant man in the world, humankind in the world, because he had many powers, as a Buddhist, right? He had many powers. He did unnecessary things, ugly things. If he didn't do that, he will become a very brilliant person as Isaac Newton. Is that clear? He goes against, but extremely. Not judge, not argue, but he goes against. Without going against, if he argue, he will become a brilliant person. Why? Because Lord Buddha itself he said, right, don't accept anything without judging. In Kalama Sutra, have you heard it? Don't accept anything without judging. Devadatta did it, but he went extremely. That was the adverse part of him. Clear? If you become a chartered accountant, you have to take the good things of the Devadatta, not the good things of the Arahat people who followed. Don't become followers, become person who argue. Then you will, but don't take bad things of the Devadatta. Right? Chartered accountant led gal perlanne me pahudina. But you have to take the best things of him. Take the best things. He argued everything, right? He tried to see in different way. Clear? That's why I told you, while you reading this paragraph, see if I did a mistake. Except for trade receivable within the scope, at initial recognition, entity shall measure financial asset or financial liabilities at its fair value, plus or minus in case of financial asset or financial liability not at fair value through P&L or loss transaction cost. Other than receivable, measure at fair value, other than P&L through P&L plus or minus transaction cost. Simply in one sentence told everything. Is that clear? Initially measure at fair value other than trade receivable, add or minus transaction cost other than fair value through P&L. Is that clear? Likewise, read this paragraph 511, 511A, 512, 513, because those are explained the day one gain no loss as well as the initial measurement transaction cost. Right? This is the theoretical aspect of basic theoretical aspects of financial instrument classification, initial measurement. Right? Okay. Today now I am going to stop the class now. Right? What you need to do before reach the classroom next Monday evening, what you need to do, all the paragraph I highlighted today, please read and come. Right? Because next day I am going to do many examples to say how to apply this, including the impairment. Then you can easily understand once you read it clearly. Right. Thank you very much.